I'm Adam Solomon, a partner here at Thoma Bravo. Today, on Behind the Deal, we'll unpack the details of our acquisition of SMA Technologies with insights from CEO Todd Dauchy. Well, Todd, thank you so much for coming on Behind the Deal. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Adam. I'm really excited to be here.
And we caught you the week after rodeo, so hopefully you are ready and refreshed to do this.
I'm ready. I don't know about refreshed. It's been a long week, but we've been having a great time.
Fair enough. Well, super. So you've been with SMA for well over a decade, originally as CTO, then president, now, of course, CEO. Would love just to hear how you've kind of evolved over those roles, how each of those different roles has affected your perspective on your current role, and just what you've kind of learned along that journey.
Yeah, so when I first joined SMA, Adam, I joined as CTO, as you mentioned, and I had the opportunity to really see the business from the technology side first. And the thing that I loved about SMA is it was just very customer-centric. They did anything and everything a customer would want. However, the downside to that is they were trying to be all things to all people, and there was some tech debt that was piling up. And I spent a lot of my early days in the career just working through infrastructure, things that had been, I guess, not updated as they should have been along the way, and modernizing the platform. So those were like the early days. And from there, I started shifting and working more in the business side, working on improving systems and processes internal to the company as we were growing the business and starting to get some really good scale inside of the company. And I think the biggest thing that I learned during those early days was all things to all people sounds great, but it's really hard to do, and it's hard to do well. And the more we got focused in our win zone, the more successful we were.
That's great. Yeah, that importance of focus, I think, is something that'll come up over and over and over again. And I know that before you joined SMA, this has been, 15 years ago almost, you were a customer of SMA. And so bring pretty unique perspective from that point of view. Can you just tell us a little bit about what, from a customer's point of view, what SMA does for them, what OpCon as a product does for them, why it's so valuable and important?
Yeah, sure. So I was with a large credit union, and back in 2005, we had changed our core processing environment, and we'd been looking for an automation platform to make our computer operations department more efficient, but also more effective, as there's just a lot of opportunity for errors in that level of processing. So just imagine a computer operator that has to come to work every single day, and they run your most critical, mission critical processes through the night. It can be things like dividend calculations, payment processing, statement generation, and a variety of other topics. By default, that's all done by hand and manually done. And SMA OpCon can come in and completely replace all of that human labor with a machine, basically, to do all of that in a completely automated, lights out way. The machine never takes a break, never takes a holiday, and never makes an error.
That's awesome. And how do the customers think about the ROI that they get? How do they think about the value? Is it just hard dollar? Is it more strategic than that?
I think it's looked at a couple of different ways. Of course, there's some hard dollar savings. When you put in a system like that, you can reallocate people either to cost savings, or we usually like to try to see our customers elevate people and to go to on more strategic roles. Another huge benefit of that is if you think about payment processing at a financial institution, they're running millions of transactions a day. If a single error happens, it affects hundreds of thousands or millions of people. And having the computer take over and run all the processing there with OpCon, we can elevate that to a more error-free environment, a much more error-free environment. So customers get a better experience, employees are getting a better lifestyle, and the financial institutions can save a little bit of money.
So in addition to our core software, we also offer managed automation services, or MAS. Could you maybe say a little bit about how that came to be and what exactly that does for our customers?
Yeah, MAS was like a major turning point for SMA. If you think about the industry that we serve from really small banks and credit unions to really large financial institutions. And we were hearing a need from those in the smaller to mid-size ranges where they love the power of OpCon, they love the value that they got from it, but they just didn't have the resources to be able to manage a complex system like OpCon can be. Overall, we try to keep it really easy to work with, but there's a mindset that goes with automation. And through that, we took the opportunity to step back and think about how could we bring additional value here. And we created a black box of OpCon where we treat it like a service. And my team actually builds automation workflows for our customers. We debug them, make sure that it all works, and then we put it into production and operate that. And if there's ever an issue going forward, my team gets all the notifications. They understand all the alerts that are coming in. We generally solve 90+% of the issues that happen on a day-to-day basis within their customer's environment. And if there's anything that we need to escalate from the customer, we're actually talking to them in native language and having a real conversation rather than someone trying to interpret an error code and figure out what to do next. This is becoming a really popular part of our business, and many customers are signing up to have a more managed experience rather than rolling their own automation.
Super. One of my favorite things that I've heard you say in describing SMA is that it's a 40-year-old startup. Could maybe tell our listeners a little bit about what you mean by that?
Yeah, so when I joined SMA back in 2012, the business was very much a lifestyle business with a family that was running it, great company, great focus on the customer, and just it was like a fun environment to be in. But there was not a lot of focus in the business. And back in 2020, the founder wanted to do something different. I worked with him to help him to receive an investment in the business. He wanted to retire, and I took over as CEO. And that was just a great opportunity to rethink how we were doing business. We spent a lot of time working on our strategy, and our go-to-market plans changed dramatically of how we were running the company. And we started acting like a startup. And I think it was like the best of all worlds. We had the references of a great customer-focused business, lots of referenceable accounts that loved what we were doing, and we were able to focus our efforts on that specific area and generate much more success than we had in the past. So revenues over the next 4 years about tripled in size, and we were able to reallocate all of that investment back into the company rather than into a lifestyle business.
And doing that and kind of transforming a business, particularly taking over from a founder, which is a little sleepy and all that, that can require a pretty specific type of leadership style. And I think, at least I view your leadership style as being very personal and really kind of emphasize the importance of personal relationships. Could you maybe say a little bit about why that is so important to you, how exactly you go about building those relationships, and how it's served you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was one of the hardest experiences of my entire career is in those early days when you're transforming this company from being the sleepy business like you talked about into a high-performing company. Not everybody's on board with that. And it takes a long time to start building really deep relationships with people to get them to understand where you're going, explaining the whys, and just repeating that message again and again and again. And of course, not everybody gets involved in that. And we had to go through a lot of transformation. We rebuilt a lot of our team, starting with the leadership team, getting them highly engaged with what we're doing. And just great things started happening once we had a highly engaged, highly talented team that all knew exactly where we were going. Just the magic started happening. I don't think any of the results that we received over time would have happened without those first three things. It all started with people.
Ain't that the truth? I feel like that's always the case. I think something that you do that's so honestly differentiated versus a lot of other CEOs is you actually really go out of your way to build close personal relationships with your team and with your investors and with your customers. Where does that come from? Why is that so important for you?
I think a lot of it is when you're a first-time CEO, you're sitting in a situation where you've run your functions that you've done really well, and now you're responsible for things that you've maybe not touched before, not done so well before. And I had to change my mindset of trusting people along the way to do functions that I had no idea how to run them. And the only way I could get comfortable with that was to really get to know them personally, get to understand what they were doing, and get them to open up with me and share with me what they were excited about, scared about, concerned overall. And building that deep relationship led us to have just really open conversations as we navigated. And things actually started getting a lot more easy and, quite frankly, a lot more fun once we got it to that level of performance where we just loved working together and had fun doing it.
And so you kind of transformed this business into, as you said, a really high-performing organization. And then around 2.5 years ago, you partnered with us at Thoma Bravo. Could you maybe talk us through that thought process and that decision process, why you were looking for private equity ownership, why Thoma Bravo, and how that partnership has gone?
So yeah, back when we were first starting our journey, we were transforming SMA from being a single product company, workload automation like we talked about before, to being an automation platform that was much more comprehensive. We wanted to have a solution that could handle both front office and back office. We wanted to be able to do batch and interactive processing. And we just knew there was a lot of acquisition need ahead of us to make all of that happen. And the equity partner that I had, while I loved working with them, they just did not have the capital resources to get us where we wanted to go. At the same time, there was also a lot of interest in the company, so we decided to take a look at the market. And Thoma Bravo showed up, and we were a little bit surprised by the brand recognition of Thoma Bravo showing up and little SMA, or at least I viewed it as little SMA at the time. And clearly through that process, Thoma's level of understanding of our business, understanding where we were, the thought that went into it, and the capital resources available behind Thoma, as well as the operational leadership, were very exciting to me. And I just knew that was a winning combination. However, Adam, if you remember correctly, before we did the deal, I looked directly at you and said, I don't want to work with somebody I don't respect and trust, and we haven't taken the time to get to know each other.
I remember that very well.
And I think that
one
was
of the more consequential Manhattans I've ever drank in my entire life.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that was actually the point that solidified everything for me. We sat down, we talked about family and kids and relationships and how we thought about the world. And then when it came time to actually get alignment about what are we going to do with this company? Where's it going to go? We had a foundation of a relationship, and it was just much easier to get on the same page. And I took that same skill set back to my team and basically told them about what I thought the relationship could be going forward. And everyone got excited about it. And at SMA, just when we hire a new employee, we don't look to try to get to yeah, I think that we can kind of do this. It's got to be a hell yes or it's a no. And with you, it was a heck yes all the way. We were all in.
Well, the feeling was obviously very mutual, and it is no longer little teeny tiny SMA. I think we're all proud to say that. And to that end, over the last 2.5 years, you and the team have done such an amazing job of growing the business really rapidly, doing some M&A, investing in new product, and all doing that while maintaining really great profitability and other metrics. And that combination of growth and profitability is obviously what we always really look for, and to have a very high rule of and all of that. But it's so hard to actually do. So could you say a little bit about how at SMA you've managed to really lead that just really exceptional performance?
Well, thank you for the comments there. I actually think this is one of the easiest parts of the job, believe it or not. When we have alignment of where we're going to go, and we have a team that's really motivated to get there, and everyone's rowing in the same direction, when we've narrowed scope down to only doing the things that matter most, the hardest part is just saying no to everything else and just not worrying about those things. And the power of that is you're not wasting time and money on things that don't matter. You spend all of your attention on the things that do. Growth goes through the roof, and your cost is relatively contained to the practice that you're working on. And it's actually quite simple to do. It's probably harder to actually do than it sounds, but that extreme focus is what makes it happen.
You make it sound easy. I know a lot of hard work went into that, and obviously much more to come. But well said on the focus, certainly. And going forward, look, we've obviously got a terrific business in the financial services end market, credit unions, banks, et cetera. We've got a platform really that has applicability to a lot of different end markets, and we've got happy customers in a lot of different end markets. As you look towards the future, how do you see the verticals that we're in maybe evolving or changing, or where would you want to double down and invest?
Yep. So right now, our focus is primarily in the financial institution space. We love the space. We have a lot of experts that work in the space. Our technology is uniquely positioned in the space. We really like being here. However, the thing that's really cool is all of the technologies that we have at SMA are applicable in any end market. And I think a lot of our journey over the next couple of years is just looking for those use cases that are highly repeatable. Where can we double down on those use cases and expand on the fringes outside of our market? And let's let the customer base drive us to where we want to go. I could see some opportunities come in the future in potentially insurance. We also have some inroads in healthcare and other areas. But right now, it's all about financial institutions, banks, and credit unions until something speaks loudly to us of where we'd want to go next.
Great. contractually obliged to ask this question, though I think it's a very interesting topic, particularly for a workload automation and orchestration software company. What are your thoughts on AI?
So AI is really heating up here at SMA. We recently did an acquisition of a company called Encapture that does a lot with machine learning, and we're investing significantly to evolve that technology forward and really get out of the machine learning space and more into true AI, more advanced AI. And it's giving us the ability to process documents a lot faster, a lot more comprehensively, a lot less error prone than we are today, improved accuracy rates. But the thing that really excites me the most is by using AI, we're able to massively streamline our implementation timeline and take that down from hundreds of hours to tens of hours, which gets customers a time to value significantly faster than they get today.
And is there any element of AI that you view as a threat? 'Cause everything you just said I think is spot on, and I think there's clearly a huge amount of opportunity for our business. But is there any element of AI that you say, gee, that we kind of have to get ahead of that to head off a threat to our core business?
I think there's a lot of people that are innovating broadly with AI. I think our unique opportunity is being very specific in how we apply it into the markets of where we are today. So all of the model training that we're doing, all the R&D spend that we have is focused tightly in our market where others aren't innovating at scale in this space. Again, they're more broad in their application.
And maybe lastly, would love to hear what your vision is for the next, 2, 5, 10 years for SMA Technologies.
Our vision for the future is actually quite simple, and I feel like we're still in the really early innings, Adam. We went through a transition of being a single product company, workload automation like we've talked about before, and our vision is to be the capital THE, the leading automation platform for financial institutions. We've had some great acquisitions. We've got some great build that we've done already. Still early on, and there's a lot of opportunity here to keep growing the business as we move forward. So I would say for the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see me laser focused right here in this space, looking for some other opportunities as we go along the way. But 95% of my effort's going to be right here.
Love to hear it. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time. This has been a lot of fun.
This has been great. Thank you so much.
Thanks to Todd for coming on today. If you like this episode, be sure to listen to next week's episode of Beyond the Deal, our mini-series where we get to ask him anything. I'm Adam Solomon. Thanks for joining us.